Hi, I'm Joshua Hayward, and welcome to Life Readings this week in the Stars and Cards. And thanks for joining me for this week that begins on May 16th. And I want to call this week a transitional week. Now, last week we had the new moon, which was a significant planetary event. And just to kind of mention a couple of things from that, we saw last week as a beginning of putting our energies towards what we really value and making some maybe hard decisions on what's really important to us and what we value. And we can feel that this week with Saturn is going to be stationing not this week to go retrograde, but on the 23rd. So we can kind of feel that need intensifying a little bit. And so continuing this week to find out what's not working and to let that go and to begin to really give some kind of structural dimensions, the beginnings of that, to what we really want to hold on to. And all right, so with Saturn stationing on the 23rd, and then after that we have an eclipse coming up too on the 26th, and that's going to be in Sagittarius, which means that the Sun will have moved into Gemini, and so we're looking for a slightly Gemini, presence that was becoming important last week, and it becomes even more prominent this week with Mercury and Venus in the sign of Gemini, and getting so communication and thinking about things, and we've got that sort of mind-driven and creative-driven personal energies that are wanting to manifest this week. We feel some pressure from the stationing presence of Saturn to really get a new structure that's going to be better for us. All right. So this week, though, there is one thing that I wanted to mention as we continue on our journey to make some changes by letting go of a lot of maybe relationships and situations and things like that. Maybe not a lot, but some. And moving into this new structural reality. A thing to really begin to look at is that Chiron now, the wounded healer, and that sacred warrior energy is starting to move into a sextile to Saturn. Remember, I just mentioned Saturn stationing, so there's that intense energy, and Chiron's coming up. And it's sort of like a sextile is like 60 degrees. It's like a double-term quartz crystal or something, And so those energies become sort of mutually receptive. And so we have the sacred warrior, Chiron and Aries, of the I am. And when you start looking at the changes from last week, put it into that perspective, and begin to look at Saturn stationing in the sign of Aquarius. Now, what Saturn in Aquarius, I think, is really about is creating a new structure in our lives that's more Aquarius oriented, more Aquarian, more looking towards the new times, the new age. We're beginning to see that we're going to need a new structure that makes us free and can move us toward those new times. Pluto, will be moving into Aquarius, and some 2, 3, 4 years down the road, something like that. Don't quote me on that, but it's coming up, and so that's going to shift our evolutionary intent very radically towards the new times. This is something you can't dial this back. We can't go back in time. So, I'm speaking to society in general, but to you, whoever's watching, you can't really go back to the past. And so that I am, that warrior, that sacred warrior, that is a peaceful warrior, and yet firm and solid, that knows who he, she, or they are. Right? This is who I am. I'm really starting to home in on, this is my identity, this is my soul and my spirit, and this how it's playing out in the world. We want that into alignment with this new structure. So that powerful structural energy of Saturn is wanting to communicate and really interact with us as the sacred warriors that are emerging in our lives, and looking at, emerging from a lot of the COVID frequency into more of a healing atmosphere, and things beginning to open up, and not just with COVID, and not just springtime either, but moving into a new set of dimensions that we don't know much about. We can either be really afraid of it and come from fear, or we can be excited about it. I'm choosing to be excited. That's how I feel about the whole thing. And I would say that you as the warrior, this week is to build that excitement, is to really discovering the new dimensions of yourself in this life, this, a life that's diverged from the old life, this ascended life, with more Christ consciousness, more awareness of the God within, the God-Goddess within, the Holy Spirit within. And this will give us freedom. But if we're thinking about terms in the outer world, we might be looking at those structures that might be antiquated once again. And but I think that Spirit's wanting us to find, with that sextile, it's not a square or an opposition. It's not that difficult. It's wanting the warrior to find the right place, the sacred warrior to find the right place and the right people to be with. I guess we can kind of reduce it down to that. And then, we've got, coming up, this Saturn stationing, and the reality of that, right now in the 23rd of the month and after, we might be starting to see some things that we haven't seen before that are actually working. So this week, actually working, all right? So I've been waiting for something to actually work for a while. All right, that's just a little editorial thing, huh? Well, I believe that we've all been a little bit frustrated by any number of things, but I don't want to get off track on that at all. So that's the kind of thing that we're looking at, and with the eclipse, that's going to be really interesting, because we're going to see a grand cross formed with an eclipse. And this week Jupiter just moves into Pisces, just barely does. And it's going to go back, and it's going to really retrograde all the way back to, I think, 22 or 21 degrees Aquarius again. So it's going to spend a lot more time in Aquarius. But right now there's this beginning of a spiritual Pisces information and inspiration and teachings, Jupiter. So looking forward to that. I'm going to be talking a lot about that next week, and perhaps the week after. So, kind of opening up to guidance that's coming in and translating spirit, the voice of spirit into your own head through your own words and stuff like that. These are things that are really, really important in moving us forward. And so, as the spiritual warrior begins to move in these really dynamic times towards new structural potentialities that are so exciting, let's go with 3 cards. And I've got my deck fanned out here, and that's been my default mode, is going for 3 cards that are being pulled. And the first one, this is really interesting. The first one is the Princess of Wands here, and she is the earthy part of fire, because princesses in this particular tarot pack are kind of earthy. So she brings a lot of passion to whatever she's doing, but she wants to make it real. She's surfing that glyph of fire and bringing her power with her. So this is an energy of like cool fun, and stuff like that, bringing in passion and making things work. She's a really charismatic type of figure that we want to bring. So in this week, and the next two cards will kind of give shape and dimension to, but if this may be a significator for you, or it may be that we have friends and helpers that have this energy too. So to keep your eyes open and alert for who she might be. And maybe we really need to manifest this energy in our lives and really get busy and know that the universe is really working with us, and we can be very creative. And I am going to pull, this is really interesting, the Ten of Cups, which has come up before. And so it's kind of a recurring theme. This is when the cups are all filled up and they're overflowing. And this is a sense of fulfillment. I also would attribute the concept of significance, because in order to feel fulfilled, I feel that we really need to be in our significance, where we feel that who we are and what we're doing has some relevance and importance and effect. In other words, so we get this emotional sense of fulfillment as we move creatively through our lives. So some fire and some water, and I'm going to go through one more card, and the other one right here is the more difficult card. So this is the one that's going to mitigate between these two cards. The energy of the princess, and whether you're male or female, if you're watching this, she applies to you. It doesn't really matter, like if you're, as to your gender identification. This card is germane to you, possibly, as I said, to some one or more people that you know. This is called oppression. It's the Ten of Wands. This is the fire where, see, she is not feeling this. She has broken out of this. So this is the thing that if you're looking at letting some things go, and you remember last week I was really talking about letting go of stuff that no longer served, value systems that are outdated, ways of obtaining money and living with money and resources that might become outdated. Well, here's another clue to the outdatedness. It's when your energies are feeling oppressive or when you're feeling oppressed. And there's a sort of a victim mentality that we can get to this. Sometimes we can feel oppressed and push it back and not even notice it for a long time, and then after a while things start to emerge and get very intense, and sometimes we manifest some anger and whatever we need to move through there. So this week, once again, it's a transitional week of developing that princess, that creative dynamic that can get things done and enjoy doing it, that's going to bring fulfillment. One card that's not here, but I'm just told to mention, is the Star card, because I really feel that this is that time when we can really begin to shine and our gifts can come through in some major, major ways. And But we got to look at what is holding us back. When you're feeling, you can feel that that oppressive type of energy in your body holding you back. It makes you want to run. It makes you want to dance. It makes you mad at anybody who might be, perpetrating that upon you. Personally, victim consciousness is oppressive in and of itself. So that's something to consider. But whatever is oppressive right now, let's take that Princess of Wands energy and move towards that fulfillment and really actualize the Star card, which once again isn't really physically here. I'm not holding it, but it is here, and it's sort of like what we're really moving towards. And Aquarius is the ruling sign for that Star card. So anyway, I'll leave you with that, and we'll be back next week with some really important stuff about the Saturn station and the eclipse and what that stuff is about. So happy transitioning this week and keeping your energies inside you. This is who I am, and this is how I move, all right? This is how I move in life, trying to find some balance between who you are on the inner and how you move into the outer circumstances of your life. So much love. So much.